Okay, so I'm Oren. I'm the brand marketing manager, um, as Christopher said, until Hazel comes back from maternity leave in September. I've just started the role, so I may not be able to answer all of your questions, but please ask anything that comes into your mind, and I'll look into it. If I don't know the answer, I can ask somebody else, and we'll get back to you. So we'll go through the questions at the end, but do feel free to type them in the box as I'm going through so you don't forget them, because there might be things that like prop up when you're seeing things about logos, etc. So I'm going to cover what brand is, why it's important, what the different parts of the brand are, Age UK brand are, how to use them, and there's going to be a lot of information in this webinar, but please don't worry too much about capturing it all. Everything I discuss can be found in the brand guidelines on the Loop, or that will be on the Loop. I had a slightly frustrating morning trying to get them up for you, but updated ones will be up properly, and we'll send them round after the webinar. So you can use them. And so don't worry too much about that. This is more to like introduce you to them, make you feel more comfortable with them, give you an opportunity to ask questions. But I'm not expecting you to remember it all. That's what the guidelines are there for, so you can refer back to them. So I feel like a lot of people have just joined. Hi, everyone. I'm Oren. I'm the brand marketing manager. I'm just going to take us through um, what brand is and how you can use the Educate brand. So what is brand? Uh, Basically, in a very basic way, brand is all the things that make an organization identifiable. So, although you can see I have expertly blanked out the name of the company of this advert, I'm sure that most of you will be able to tell me who it's for, especially if I say the jingle, which I will not sing, that would normally accompany is "Holidays are coming, holidays are coming." Um, so it's because of Coca-Cola's strong brand created by the colours, the fonts, the images, the phrases, and their placing that you recognize them even without being able to see their name and logo. As well as helping you identify and remember the organization, the brand also creates an identity that people associate with the company, like even if that's subconsciously. So people do now associate Christmas and the Coca-Cola Christmas trucks because they've been so heavily advertised and the branding there is so strong. So it's really important for us to think about what we're giving across while we're using our brand. So that takes us to the next slide, which is why is brand important? So the brand is important for four main reasons: recognition, trust, accessibility, and uniting people who are using it. So for recognition, so as I covered before, brand makes an organization recognizable, and it pulls together all the different things that an organization is doing. So the Age UK network is brilliant and big and is doing loads of things: information advice, campaigns, policy, fundraising, volunteering, and all of our services. And the brand makes it clear that all of those things are being done by Age UK and local Age UKs, rather than looking like completely disparate things that are happening by different organizations or different charities. The brand helps it make it clear that those things are all us. It also helps people recognize that when we are doing them. So if you if you're able to recognize the fact that Age UK or Age UK Croydon, for instance, in one of these ones, is doing volunteering around winter, is also running a petition about free TV licenses for over 75s, is also the people that gave you help to find out about attendance allowance, then you're more likely to support the charity, fundraise for them, and know you can come to an Age UK or a local Age UK and ask for the support you need because you've recognised all the different things that that charity does. Secondly, there's trust. So it's really important. Like Age UK and is a really well-known charity throughout the country and countries, and people trust it as a brand. So when people are looking at information from us, they can feel confident that they are reading information, signing a petition, giving money to a charity that they trust. And brand is a really important part of that. So if you receive a fundraising donation form that is on brand and looks professional, you can trust it and feel like, yes, this must be Age UK. I know what Age UK looks like. This is correct. Whereas if you're receiving, maybe if you're just looking at a poster about a garden service, and the brand isn't quite right, or it looks a bit off, you might second guess yourself and wonder whether or not that information is actually coming from Age UK, or whether or not it really is something that you can trust and sign up for. Accessibility. So our brand makes it easy for people to interact with us. Accessibility means that people with visual, cognitive, learning difficulties can read and understand and interact with our information. So our fonts, images, and set out are done in a way to make it possible for these people to read and understand our information. And finally, uniting. So the brand brings us all together. It unites all the national and local charities, and it unites our supporters and volunteers with us. When someone is running for an Age UK, they can easily, through the brand, find all the other Age UK runners and the supporters who are cheering them on. And it makes everyone feel like they're part of one team working together to bring about change for older people. So that's why brand is so important, what brand is and why brand is so important. So let's just go over how you would use our brand. And hopefully you'll then be able to leave feeling confident. So yeah, as I said before, everything I'm going to cover here is in the brand guidelines that you can find on the Loop. So if a link will be sent around after the webinar, but if you're on the Loop, you can find it in this part here, the marketing and campaign section of the Loop, and then just click on marketing and brand. And it's right there, it'll be right in front of you. Don't try and do that right now, because the brand guidelines that are up there are hidden because I can't get the right ones up. But they will be up by after this webinar. And we will send the link around at the end. So the logo. I'm sure most of you already know everything I'm about to say about the logo, but as it's an incredibly important part of our brand, I thought it was just worth quickly going over it. So there are 3 important parts of using the logo to create consistency: format, size, and position. So the format. So the logo is formed of the life loop here, the Age UK name, and then the geographical location. These have been specifically made and should always be together like they're shown. And the sizes and location to each other is fixed. It shouldn't be moving things around or just using a bit of it. And nothing else should be added to them. And please, I know this sounds petty, but always try and use the master artwork. Download, if you can't find it, download a new one from Brand Hub, because it means it will always be high quality when you're printing it or online. Because just having like saved and copied from somewhere else, or snapped it, you can see the fuzziness. In fact, you probably can see the fuzziness on the Staffordshire one I've done, because I had to screenshot it in order to show you the thing around it, but that has made it much fuzzier than the Anytown logo, which is the master copy that I've put in. So size, I recommend that the logo is never produced lower than 10 millimeters or 28 pixels high, as that means it definitely remains clear. Now, that's not always going to be possible. For instance, if you're using a branded pen or on a mobile website, this is not going to be possible, but it is a good general rule. There also always needs to be clear space around the whole logo. When you download the logo from Brand Hub, it will have a box around it, like you can see here on this one on Staffordshire, and that keeps the space. So please make sure that when you download it and you have this box, so that box is not overlapping anything else you have on that page. That will be how you make sure you give the logo enough space. Okay, position. So in print, on websites, and HTML emails, the logo usually sits on the top left, as you can see here on the support for people living with dementia leaflet. However, one that doesn't fit, such as on adverts like this garden party, because it's got this nice colourful top, or on, for instance, on an envelope, it can sit on the bottom left if necessary. As you'll see in this presentation, the Age UK logo tends to sit on the right bottom if it isn't at the top left, and this is so the local Age UK logos and ours can sit together easily on a document. So if we were running this summer garden party together, any town would be on the left and we would be on the right. So next important thing is all the colours that we use as Age UK. These are the colours that you should use when you're making anything for your local Age UK. The numbers and the names are the codes you need to get this colour in different programs. The second last, the RGB one here, you see screen RGB, is probably the most useful for you because it's what you would use if you were on a PowerPoint, for instance, and trying to change your font color to one of the ones in the guidelines. Don't worry about remembering all these numbers or writing them down. They are all in the guidelines. Please do not use more than 3 colors on one design. It just makes it very crowded. And remember to leave lots of white space as well. I know it sometimes feels a bit odd, but more white space makes something more attractive. So these ones here are all the primary brand colors and should be used in the first instance. And for accessibility, to make things easily readable, darker colors are better. So avoiding the sky blue if possible. And these are the secondary colors. And should be used only if you really need them. So maybe if you really like, for instance, on that garden party one, this dark green was used, even though it's a secondary color, because it fits with the fact that it's a garden party. But mainly these should just be used as complements to one of the primary colors. Also, the light green, the orange, and the yellow shouldn't be used for text online, and then should never be produced smaller than 20 point in size in printed materials, because they're just too hard to read if you make them any smaller. So our fonts, these are all the different fonts you can use as part of Age UK. So FSMe is our main font, but it does have to be bought at fontsmith.com. It is a one-off payment of £160, which means you can then use them for forever. But I understand that's not always going to be possible. But it is a really good font. It's designed to improve legibility for people with cognitive difficulties. It's clean, modern, and warm. And it's also available in a web font, so you can use it easily on there too. So there are real positives to having it. For Foco Age UK, is the other option that you don't have to pay for that one. You can just either email partner.marketing@ageuk for it, or it's on Brand Hub. It's a distinctive and friendly font, and it can be used for headings, pull quotes, and key statements. But because it's in italics, you shouldn't use it for the main text of a document. If you haven't got FSMe, you should use Arial for that. Or, for instance, if it wasn't possible to use Foco at all, you would just use Arial throughout. So I've just talked about a lot of different things. So let's just have a look at how the fonts and the colours can come together to create impact. So let's just go through this document and look at the different techniques used. So you'll just see here that there's a, sorry, there's a line of dots. I mean, from a design point of view, we call that Japanese dots, which is something it's called in InDesign. But if you were using something else, you could just create a line of dots, and we just use them as page headers or footers or to break up text. You don't need to worry about that too much. You don't need to use it. It's just there if you have the ability and you want to break up some text. As you can see on the header here, we've used a mix of fonts to draw attention. So both FSMe Light, which is this bit, and FSMe Heavy have been used. Or you could use Foco Age UK Italic and Bold Italic in order to do the same thing. And then Arial as the main text, because you shouldn't use Foco as the main text. But just make sure you're not mixing and matching too much. If you've got FSMe, you should use it throughout. And if you've got Foco Age UK, you should be using that for the bits that aren't the main text, and then Arial. Or if you've only got Arial, just use Arial. Don't use FSMe and Foco and Arial, because that will just make the document very confusing. So use of color and color and sizing to make this document easier to understand. So obviously the header here is in a color. The introductory paragraph has been highlighted because it's been used in the color and is a larger size from the rest of the main text. And this just helps draw people to the summary of the page. So even if they're only looking through it quickly, they understand the gist of it and they're drawn into what it's about and then know whether or not to read the rest. For the rest of the main text, you should try and make it size 12, as that's both dementia and dyslexia friendly. This one's obviously in 2 columns, which is really useful if you're trying to break up a lot of information. But please do think about your audience because dementia friendly materials should only have 1 column. So just think about who the information is going out to. Another thing that's used here to break up the text is this subheading. You can see that it's in color. It's also in the heavy font in order to stand out a bit. And it just like helps people break up the text and make it easier to read and skim the information. So you can see the subheading and right, I want to read this bit because it's on what I want. We've used color here to pull out quotes. So pulling out quotes is a really great way of also breaking up material, but it also gives like the correct importance and focus to personal experience of older people and our service users. And you can use color, you can use FSME or FOCO italic to in the same size as the main text or larger, just to draw attention to it. Over here, we've got a breakout box. To do that, you can just use a different color to highlight the key information. Just ensure that the text size and color is legible. And the box background, it's decided I've taken too long on that, hasn't it? And the box background isn't too heavy. It should be set at 10% for the legibility. And then here's a similar thing. You've got to pull out using a different text, using the FSME heavy and using color to create emphasis. So you can see we've used 3 colors on the whole of this. Black is the default. There's plum for the to highlight parts of it, and then there's blue for the specific information that's not part of the main text. All right, on to photography. So our photography is designed to show our supporters and service users how we help older people make the most of later life, and it often focuses on the positive outcomes of our work. The photography can be used widely across communications, and it's particularly suited to promoting our services and the positive impact of what we've done. The aim of our photography is to be natural, positive, and empowering, although sometimes it is necessary to use a more serious photograph or serious portrait, depending on what you're talking about. Photography should have good diversity to reflect your community and to make it clear that everyone, that the services are open to everyone and everyone is part of the charity. And whether the pictures are snapshots of sort of real life scenarios like these ones, or they're more portraits. What matters is that they feel truthful, optimistic, and honest. And you don't need to worry too much about taking these photographs. You can just use Brand Hub to pull off images, and all of these ones are ones that are available there. Please also be mindful that we sometimes have to stop using photographs because we use photographs of people. So do keep an eye on Digital Hub and on Signpost, where we'll tell you about images that we can no longer use. So this is just an example of why it's really good to use photography as part of our brand. It's also one when we're using a more serious portrait. It just makes this campaign much more personable. It makes the issue personal to you. You're thinking about a real human who has no one, rather than having it as an abstract idea. Of course, photography is not always right. So we have a range of icons that you can also use that are also on Brand Hub. And they add visual interest to designs, and they help you communicate facts and statistics where a photograph just isn't quite appropriate. On Brand Hub, there's a range. So there's all sorts of stuff, from real items like money and shopping baskets, and flat blocks, to more metaphorical ideas. So things like the clock on the calendar, or there's a megaphone if you wanted to say something about campaigning. So you can use them to illustrate almost everything. And they can be found in all the colours of our palette, so you can fit them into your materials. These ones are all white because I've got a coloured background, so they need to be white. But if I was on a white background, you could maybe use more range of color. And they don't need to be used alone. You can pair them with the main text or text about the icon illustrates, or just as part of a pull-out quote. So here's an example of that. You can see here that the icons make this really appealing, but they also fit into the information so much better than the picture one. One, because they illustrate the activity really clearly in a way that a photograph might not, and they fit onto this smaller poster because they can kind of fit at the sides, compared to just having a small little photograph down here wouldn't have the quite same appeal. Other things to note on this is that the logo's in the right place, and there's the use of only 3 colors. So I've talked a lot about Brand Hub just then, and I hope most of you have heard it before, but just as a brief introduction, it's the online database of logos, images, and templates, and it's going to fully replace Brand Bank this year, and we're in the process of moving across all the templates. You should mainly be using Brand Hub, as it's where all the up-to-date pictures, logos, materials, and the CQS templates are. So although you may still need to use Brand Bank for some things like letterheads, please do start using Brand Hub and get comfortable with it. If you've not got access to it, just email brandhub@ageuk.org.uk. You can have each local age UK can have 2 users. So if you're not sure who they are, you can also just email me on the same address, and I can let you know who you've got that's registered on it. There will be a later webinar where I'll go through Brand Hub more thoroughly, really help you understand how to use it. But just quickly, if you've not used it before, this is what Brand Hub looks like. And if you wanted to get to a template on it, you would first click Workflow, which is the tab just there, and then you would click the Create New tab. And from there, you get a list of editable templates that you can choose one from. And when you choose that, you'll be taken through to a new page, and it'll be really simple. You can change all the text as images you want, or you can basically use all the information that's already there and just update the contact information and geographical location. So the last thing about Brand Hub is that I know that some people like to, when they're creating templates, use their own images. And that's really nice. Like, it's a really good idea to have that as part of your merchandise, like if you're creating something to use your own photos, but you need to upload the image on Brand Hub. There's a drag and drop facility on the login screen, but these images have to be signed off. So if you're wanting to use your own images, you can't just go in on that day when you're hoping to create the template and put it in. It has to be uploaded onto the system. So if you do that, it then needs to be signed off by an admin to ensure that basically the images are high enough resolution and they've been cropped in the right way. So mainly it's just to make sure you leave enough time if you want to do that, so that there's time for someone to do all that signing off before you then use it in a template. Images on Brand Hub can be completely exclusive to you, so don't worry about that. If you have something that only you have consent to use, you can still use it in your templates. But if you are happy for other local age UKs to use them, you can say that too. But if you do that, we just need to see the copy of consent forms. And it will be your responsibility to notify us in the event that the person in the picture or their families wish to have the images removed. There's consent forms on the loop that you can use, or you can use as a template for your own. So please do have a look at those. I'll also make sure they get sent around at the end of the webinar. And if you do have good images and case studies that you think illustrate the issues that older people are facing and the fantastic work you're doing, do just let us know. Like, we're always looking for that sort of information and to promote them. So we would love to hear from you if you think you've got good case studies and good photographs. So yeah, branded merchandise is something that's been coming up into my inbox in the last couple of weeks since I've started. And I just wanted to make sure you all knew that actually Age UK can no longer provide branded merchandise for you. The brand team is just too small to be able to design something for all the local Age UKs. So you now need to work with your local printer to get items like t-shirts, balloons, pens created. I believe there are some templates still on Brand Bank if you want to use those, but the best thing is probably actually to get your correct logo artwork off Brand Hub, and work in your local area to get something created for you. It also means that you can do a bulk order, which will be cheaper, and means when you reorder, that will be better than when it was all coming through us. The reorders, they wouldn't have kept the plates. And you can get your logo and print quality from Brand Hub just here. This is on the literally as you log in, you see this, and you'll see the logo artworks right here. So that was a lot of information about the brand guidelines and the different ways we use them. I'm just going to show you some examples of how I've used them and why they're so important, just to try and bring that a little bit more to life. So here is a report. It's perfectly reasonable. It's got all the information that it's about to see in the next slide of the report. It's well set out for a Word document. Like, it's got a header, it's got some subheaders, it's got bullet points. But I hope you'll see now that I put up the branded version. This is both much more readable and just much more attractive. So the branding of it, the use of color makes it much more invited to read it. It's easier to read. You can scan the information you want to get, the info, like the stuff that's sort of hidden down here is now right up here, and in like highlighted. Like if you were just skimming through, you'd be able to pick out those information, and it looks more professional. If you were handing, this is an impact report, if you were handing this impact report to a funder or a council, the brand example is going to make you stand out and give you a favourable impression compared to the one that was just made on Word. So next one is posters. Here is a version of the gardening service poster that I have created. I did it very quickly. I actually did it in PowerPoint because I thought that might be all everyone has. And you know, it's not bad, if I do say so myself. Like, it's got some good brand work, like the logo's in the right place. There's color. There's been icons to draw attention to it. Although the text is centered and it should always be put to the left. But I think you can see if I had just used a template on Brand Hub, the poster is just already incredibly improved. Like, it looks so much more appealing. It looks so much more professional. It's been created by designers, so they've used color and size changes in the places they know that need to have their the attention drawn to them. And it was really quick because actually this template basically already exists. So all you've got to do is change that word for where you are and put in your details, and then you're done. And you can add extra photos if you want to down here of your service. But it's actually much quicker than one I created there, and it looks better. So here's another load of examples. So obviously, as well as the printed merchandise, like posters or reports that we use, we're also using brand online. And your website is so often the introduction to your charity. So it's really important that we're using brand well there, as it makes your local age UK look professional, welcoming, and inclusive. So here are some really good examples that local. This is true. This is what they look like right now. If you went on their websites, really good examples of the brand use. Like, the photos are colourful, good quality. They fit the space. They aren't stretched or blurry, and they represent what the charity stands for. And the picture. What's most important is the picture and the strapline. So this bit and here in the plum, they're all before the fold of the page, which basically means you don't have to scroll to see any of this information. The minute you land on the page, this is what you see. And that's just really important to make sure people are getting your information straight away. So more specifically with Sutton, is really good because it's a current campaign. They've got the big knit on. It makes it look like they're an active charity. They've got stuff going on right now that you can get involved with. And it's also just a really good idea to use Big Knit campaign because it's one of our continuous campaigns. So you don't have to feel like you're having to update it all the time. And it comes with really great high quality images already provided for you. And the Hillingdon, Harrow and Brent one is really great because it's a photo of their local service. The photograph is everything we just said we wanted photography to be. It's natural, it's positive, it's empowering, the people are smiling and welcoming. It's a really good quality photo. It's got great colours, and in the bonus, I hope you can see here, it's got their logo right there. It's an excellent one. Also, their strapline is really short and to the point. Like, it's clear what they're offering. It's clear what you can do next by how can we help you. So it's just a great way. Like, it's an excellent summary of what the charity is and how it's there to help people. But of course, your website, you should be using brand throughout. your website, not just on your front page. And it can just make your pages look clear and inviting. So here, this one's Educate Staffordshire. It's really nice. They've used photos and boxes to advertise their services, and that's just a great way of making all the fantastic things you're doing like displayed really clearly without making it overwhelming. And all the photos are good quality. Once again, they're all really they mainly fit the boxes, and what's most important is they are appropriate to the service that they are advertising. They're not just photos for photos' sake, and there is also some diversity within these photos. Up here with Rotherham, it's a great example of how you can use icons, and these are all ones that are on Brand Hub. And they can be used to bring life and colour and interest to a page. Once again, decided I've taken too long on it. Uh, interest on the page, and it's just actually a photo probably couldn't have given you all the things there. You wouldn't have been able to summarize this service as well with one photo as you can with in the same amount of space 5 icons. And right here with Norfolk, they've used a photo and a pull-out quote with the brand color, just to display like a real life scenario and make it empowering. It creates like a community you really want to join in on and be part of. So just as a final note on that, obviously I've talked about using photos on your website. So when you are using them, something that's really important is making sure they're the correct sizes and they fit properly, because this is what makes them look appealing and professional. And it might seem minor, but actually if you think about the fact that your website is often the first thing anyone knows about your charity, something that's stretched or not footing correctly can give a really bad impression. People can think that it's unprofessional or that the charity like is outdated. So seems minor, but it is quite important. And you can find all the image guidelines on the digital hub, and we'll send that link round at the end as well. So finally, like, that was a lot of information. I know you're going to have questions, and you're not going to remember anything. So please do use all of the support you can. You can email partner.marketing. It is a generic inbox to make sure that things are being covered, but I am the only one really working on it. It's mainly being covered by other people who have other jobs. So please bear in mind that I'm only one person and there are other aspects to my role. So make sure you leave lots of time to get your login, upload your image for approval, because I'm not always going to be able to turn things around in 24 hours or 48 hours even. Do use Brand Hub for up-to-date images, logos, although I understand you might use Brand Bank for a while. The Digital Hub, this is where you can get support for your websites, and this is where the correct sizes for the images are. And the Loop, like, there is a marketing section. It has the brand guidelines, or it will. It has FAQs, and it's also where we'll be putting campaign information for like the winter campaign on it. So that's everything. Do you have any questions? So I can't see the chat box unless I minus.
Yeah, the only question was, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. The only question was, which I think you covered, so I'm just going to let Beth back in. The only question was from Danielle Smith, and that was, sorry, how do we access Brand Hub? But I think you've covered that already with basically they would email you to get access.
Yes. So do email me to get access. Let me find that slide. Oh, my computer is frozen. Sorry, Microsoft PowerPoint has literally just crashed on me. Yes, you can email partner.marketing and if you're not already on it, or just brandhub@ageuk.org.uk.
Yeah.
And as you can see on the support page here, the website is just brandhub.ageuk.org.uk. So that gets you onto it. But if you haven't got a login, you'll need to ask me and I can sign you up to it.
Okay, we've got another one, which is what is from John Truss. What restrictions are there on using images from Brand Bank?
So please try and use images from Brand Hub rather than Brand Bank. I know that's annoying because it's a new system, but we know the ones on Brand Hub are up to date. Actually, at the moment, as I've only just started, I still don't have access to everything on Brand Bank, so I can't make sure it's up to date. So Brand Hub is the best place to be. It makes sure that you're using images that we know we can use, and we definitely have consent form. There aren't any restrictions on using them. Unless they say. So it should pop up on Brand Hub. If you say, I want to download X, it will then pop up with a little image. A little box will pop up and say, this is only for use on X. And then if your use is not one of those uses, then please don't use it. But otherwise, if it doesn't do that, you can use them. But just also be mindful that you're using real people's faces, and think about what you're writing about. I know we had somebody recently write in and ask about, they were using doing an information leaflet on HIV, which is a perfectly good thing to be doing, and asked us about that. And we felt that really that needed to, if they were going to use an image, that needed to be a stock image rather than one of our case studies that we'd taken photography of. Because while those people have consented, that's quite a difficult thing to have your face attached to. So just making sure you've definitely got a stock image for that. Just be mindful about what you're writing about and whether or not one of our case studies from our photography shoots would want to be associated with it, or whether or not you need to use something more like icons or stock imagery where it's actors.
Thank you. We've got another one, which is from Deborah Hunter, and she said, you mentioned the font was £160, but is that per local or per user?
No, that's per local HUK. So
Okay.
you just buy a license from your local HUK, and then you can own it. Like hopefully you have some way of sharing stuff amongst you, but you can just then download it. Yeah, that's it.
I have one from Claire Atkinson. What is the best format of the icons to use for print, as I have found they distort when enlarging them?
Oh, that is a very good question. I do not know the answer. um, I will find that out, and I'll send the answer around when we send around the links.
Cool. Thank you very much. And we've got one from Nick. I think it's Rousseau. Question re front of house signage. Is there an approved logo ed? Is there an approved logo ed sign for an information and advice center on Brand Hub or any other front of house signage templates?
That's another very good question.
And if you can't
I,
answer it here, that's fine.
I will probably also need to look that one up, and make sure there is something on Brand Hub for that, that you can use. And if there isn't, I'll work to get one up on there.
Okay. And we have another one from Nick, which is templates ready to go for services. Are they available to download on Brand Hub?
Um, Templates for what services? Sorry.
It says templates ready to go for services. Are they available to download on Brand Hub? Do you need to kind of to expand on that?
Like, as far as I'm,
Oh,
there are several templates that you can use on Brand Hub, so you should be able to use them. If there's something specific that you need that's not on there, or you don't think you can change, because there's fully editable ones, so you can use a template and just change everything that's written on it, and then you can make it a leaflet or a poster that you want it to be about. But if there's something specific that you feel is not there, then just email me at partner.marketing and we can look into whether or not we need to create something to put up there.
okay. I hope that answers your question, Nick. He said, for example, gardening services, but if not,
Yeah,
he
so
get in touch.
there is a gardening service as well. There's literally one that's gardening services on there. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think there is, if you want to do one for that was like men in sheds, I don't think there is one of that, but you could go onto the gardening services template and that's entirely editable. So you could then change the title, you could change the picture, and it would serve, it would work as a template for other services.
Okay. Thank you. We got another one from Deborah, which is, are there any plans to return to centrally supplied branded goods? I understand the team is too small to cope at the moment, but it was a great benefit.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And I don't think that there is a plan to do that. What I would like is for us to get things on Brand Hub so that you can use templates to create something really easily that you can then send to a printer in your area. That is my goal. But at the moment, there's no plan for it to change into it being centrally because there's just not we've only got one designer, so there's just not the time for them to be creating these things. And then it goes to our printers, and actually that's not so great for you because if you want a reprint, that's not very easy compared to if you're working with your local printers. Actually, they'll probably keep those designs on file, and it should make it easy, actually cheaper to get them reprinted for you. But yeah, I completely understand that it's it was a useful system, and I really like it. So we had easily usable templates for you at least.
Okay, sorry, another few.
No, that's fine.
Rebecca Richards, in terms of uploading images to Brand Hub, is this for every image we want to use on our marketing materials?
Yes, every image that you're putting up onto, I mean, other than the logo, which will pull through, so you don't need to upload that. Any image you're uploading to Brand Hub does need to go through that. Yeah, because it will sit on Brand Hub.
Okay. Nick came back with this, said how many users per charity can have access to Brand Hub?
2.
2.
Unless you can tell me why not, but it should be 2.
Okay. And in terms of, because there should be 2 people, do you have generic logins, or is it just, do you change them?
I can really, so they aren't generic logins, they're specific logins at the moment mainly, but there's no harm in creating a generic login, that's fine. But I can also change them really easily. So what we've had when people have left recently is they've just emailed Brand Hub and said, I'm leaving, can you please change it to X? And that's what I've done, either to a generic email address while they've been waiting for somebody new to come in, or somebody else they've asked to have a login, and we've just changed over who the user is. That's very simple.
Okay. John Truss has got a question. You spoke about serious portraits. I find there are a limited number of serious portraits to choose from and very few pictures depicting LGBT people. So
Yeah.
do you have any plans to address this?
I completely agree with you. That it is a problem, and we are looking into what we can do about providing better photography, or at least better stock photos on there that you can use. So yeah, that is, but it's sort of constrained by budgets and things. But we are looking into what we can do. We do know it's a problem.
Okay, thank you. And Beth Rollinson said, are we able to order AGK branded merchandise? For example, looking to get some cycling tops. I think that kind of is covered by your other one, that it's not covered.
Yeah, I don't think so. Unless you're you want to talk to like the fundraising team, you know, because you're doing something with them and you're wanting cycling tops for people in your area. I don't think that is something that we can provide, but do email in and I can have a look. But yeah, I think at the moment it's stuff you need to produce locally.
Okay, and then Shazia said the same thing. So can Brand Hub be used to create GPX versions of our logo for printing onto t-shirts?
Yes,
Oh,
I
okay.
believe it can. But if you're having problems, let me know and we'll see what we can do.
Okay. I do have a question, just
Okay.
something that not that you've raised, but it's something else. So could you go back to your examples of the logos on the websites? That's the one. Yes.
This one.
No, the next one.
This one.
That's the one. And so this is just for everybody else, because I only spotted this when we were doing the presentation. So what Rotherham have done, which is great, they've used logos, and it's you know, using those examples is really good, but they put them in a table. So you shouldn't be putting logos like that in a table. So as you've done on the left hand side with the images, you know, all brand partners can kind of create 3 featured post, 4 featured post, kind of guides to kind of break down what's going on, but you shouldn't put logos into a table. So I can see it looks really, really nice, and so in some ways I'm really pleased that Rotherham have done it, but at the same time, because it's not accessible, so it means that you're not displaying information, you're using it for formatting purposes. It just means that the site might not be read properly when it comes to be used on screen readers. But
That's a
apart
very
from
good
that, it
point.
looks really nice. I have another one from Rebecca Jones. Some of the icons that you showed an example don't seem to be available on Brand Hub. Are some of them exclusive to the National AGK?
Oh, I don't think they should be. Uh let me look into it.
Okay. Anybody else? As I say, if you do have any questions, you can email them in. We're going to send out a feedback
Yeah,
form after this with links to everything that you should have access to and emails. And if you put some questions in there, then or and I myself can answer them depending on where they sit. But otherwise, thank you very much. It's been a great presentation. I've certainly learned things, and I hope everybody else has. And otherwise, we'll see you all next time.